right, thank you everyone for coming today. This is the last student presentation seminar that we have. Next week, we'll still have a graduate student like current events seminar, and then I'll actually be a faculty panel. So Dr. Larkin Powell, Dr. Chris Juzinski, Dr. Tom Berkey, and someone from the ISSO office will be here doing a panel. And that'll be a good opportunity for students to come ask questions about our program and just some current events and what's going on right now. So I definitely highly recommend that. And there will still be pizza. So yeah, next week will be our last official one. And today is our last official student-led presentation. So today we have Emma Balunek. She's a master's student with Mike Forsberg, Dr. John Benson, and with the Platte Basin Time Lapse. Emma is studying the coyote-badger hunting relationship in prairie dog colonies across the West. Through this project, she is contributing new scientific and behavioral insights about this intriguing relationship, while also communicating the story to a diverse audience through high-quality photos and video. Emma's work should provide new understanding and appreciation for the often overlooked grasslands. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming. So like I said, like she said, I'm a master's student and tomorrow is my defense. So I'm kind of using this as a practice time to go through the entirety of the defense. So it will be kind of long. So if you have to leave, you can leave, but it should be it will be under an hour. So I'm studying the coyote-badger hunting relationship, and my project over the last 3 years has been a combination of research and storytelling. So I want to start with this 2.5 minute. So animals hunt together. Cooperation between animals has long been studied and is an important part of animal behavior. So cooperation occurs within species, like in prides of lions and packs of wild dogs hunting antelopes and gazelles in Africa. But cooperative foraging also happens across species, like the relationship between the grouper eel or the grouper and the moray eel hunting fish underwater in the Red Sea. So out of these two, cooperative foraging across species foraging is more rare and we know less about it. Another example of cooperative foraging is the coyote-badger hunting relationship. So in this relationship, these two carnivores use their complementary hunting skills to work together to hunt prairie dogs and ground squirrels. So the coyote hunts above ground and can chase prey below ground, and the badger can dig below ground. And if prey escapes above, then the coyote is waiting there and can capture it. So it's harder for the prey to escape if both animals work together. And in 2019, I found this rock pile. It's in eastern Colorado, just south of Cheyenne, Wyoming. And my friend and I went up there one day and we found all these golden eagle pellets scattered around it. And so we decided to set up a trail camera. And then in 2020, I captured this image of a coyote and a badger hunting pair. And so I started doing research about this relationship and learned that scientifically, we don't know too much about it. And there's also not a lot of photos and videos about it. So I decided to study this relationship for my master's. So over the last 3 years, to learn more about this relationship, I drove over 40,000 miles. I spent over 175 days in the field, captured over 1 million camera trap images, and got nearly 60 detections of coyote-badger associations. The relationship is well documented and part of Indigenous knowledge as well, but we're still lacking on information like the geographical extent of this relationship and when and where these two species come together to hunt. Indigenous people knew about this relationship long before European white settlers knew about it when they came to America. And in this book called The Voice of the Coyote that was written in 1950 by Frank Dobie, there's this image of an artifact, a clay pot, that was found in northern Mexico. And that is the head of a coyote, and that's the head of a badger. I found several transcribed native stories from the mid-1900s that involved coyotes and badgers together. And these stories were from multiple tribes across different geographies like Arizona, Washington, Oregon, and New Mexico. And these stories were transcribed by white people, so there might be some cultural biases. But regardless, it seems that the relationship between coyotes and badgers was noteworthy enough for people to want to tell stories about it. And my interpretation of what they believed based on these stories is that the badger typically had the upper hands in the relationship, and the coyote acted as like a trickster and would try to trick the badger, but usually in the end, the coyote got tricked by the badger. And that theme remained true across the different tribes in different areas of the West. And many of these stories use the term cross cousins, friends, neighbors. And in these stories, the two would often visit one another at their homes, and then they would go out and hunt together. So similar to how Native Americans were intrigued by this relationship, it was also noteworthy to European white settlers, hunters, and naturalists. And they wrote down their observations from the 1900s as well. So this is a quote from Samuel Agee from 1884 that says, "I saw several hundred feet below me a coyote and badger walking together, and every few minutes stopping and playing. The coyote would go in front of the badger, lay its head on the latter's neck, lick it, jump into the air, and give other expressions of unmistakable joy. Its antics with the badger were very much like that of a young dog playing with another pup. The badger seemed equally well pleased." And this is a more recent video that went viral from California a few years ago, capturing similar behavior to what Agee described back in 1884. And so note that these Native American and white settler stories and interpretations of this relationship do seem to be a little bit more friendly than what has been described in the few studies about this relationship. But not everybody thinks this could be a friendly relationship. While it's likely rare, it is important to note that coyotes have been documented killing badgers and vice versa. And we assume that the prey of the others would be the most vulnerable. So the potential benefits of working together must outweigh the risks. Some naturalists think that the coyote benefits by capturing prey missed by the badger without the badger being affected, making it a commensal relationship. And coyotes have also been documented stealing prey from the badger, indicating that maybe the coyote is a parasite to the badger. But we still don't really know the mechanisms and the nature of how the two come together, so there's still a lot to learn about this relationship. But many observers do imply a stronger relationships where both species do benefit. The main study conducted on the coyote-badger relationship was by Minta et al. In 1992, their study site was the National Elk Wildlife Refuge in Jackson, Wyoming. And these are some pictures that Steve Minta sent me of their study site and one of the pairs he observed. And throughout their 3-year study, their research suggested that both the coyotes and the badgers benefited from the relationship. So they found that coyotes had a 34% increase in capture rate of ground squirrels when working with the badger. And coyotes also traveled less for food when working with the badger. Badgers also traveled less for food when with a coyote. And it was a little more difficult for the researchers to determine the benefits if the badgers captured more food, because badgers typically eat their food below ground. But the researchers did notice that the badgers spent more time below ground when with a coyote, which could suggest that they're spending more time eating prey. And then lastly, the coyote's presence above ground may help keep prairie dogs and ground squirrels below ground, increasing the badger's chances, and vice versa. The presence of the badger below ground may push prey above ground, increasing the coyote's chances. So before I get into the details on my research, I just want to introduce you all to the main characters of my project. So coyotes are like an elegant dog traveling with purpose as they trot through the prairie. They're a similar size to a border collie. They vary in color from red to brown to gray. They're extremely adaptable and opportunistic hunters seeking a variety of large prey like pronghorn and deer, and smaller prey like prairie dogs, ground squirrels, pocket gophers. They'll also eat grasshoppers and voles and carrion and human food as well. So on this map here, in this lighter orange color, before 1900, the coyotes' range consisted of open structured habitat across central and western North America. And unlike most species where their range shrinks because of human activity, the coyotes' range expanded after 1900, moving northward into Canada and Alaska and eastward. That's the lighter orange there. And this coincided with the time of the extirpation of large carnivores like wolves and mountain lions. And so in many places, coyotes took over the role as top predator, but still likely playing that ecological role differently than those large carnivores. And also at this time, there was a lot of clearing of the forest and other natural habitat for agriculture and development, which allowed coyotes to expand to most corners of North America. And they now live in forested areas as well as urban areas, just highlighting how extremely adaptable these animals are. So coyotes are the most persecuted carnivore in North America. Over decades, they have been poisoned, trapped, aerial gunned, and killed for bounties and in contests. And this still happens today. Over 500,000 coyotes are killed every year in the US. So the next animal is the American badger. I like to describe the badger as a shag carpet waddling across the prairie. They're about the size of a cat, and they're mostly gray in color. They're very low to the ground, and they're diggers. So they eat small rodents like ground squirrels, pocket gophers, prairie dogs, but they'll also eat scorpions, insects, lizards, snakes, especially when burrowing rodent populations are low. And badgers prefer open grasslands-like areas where burrowing rodents live. So their range is kind of similar to the range of the coyote before 1900, mostly living in most of Central and Western North America. And not quite to the extent that coyotes are misunderstood and disliked, but badgers sometimes have the reputation of being mean and aggressive animals. And they're also disliked in some agricultural areas due to their digging habits. So the next species is the prairie dogs. And so where the diets of coyotes and badgers overlap is the prey that they'll hunt together. So prairie dogs are the size of a large baked russet potato, and they live in family groups that are part of large colonies of other prairie dogs. And prairie dogs are like a coral reef in a sea of grass. They attract an incredible amount of diversity of wildlife because of their role as a keystone species. They provide a reliable food source and housing in their burrows for over 160 other vertebrate species. So there are 5 species of prairie dogs. This is the map of them here, and all face threats from the destruction of habitat. The most common prairie dog is the black-tailed prairie dog, and this is their historic range stretching from Canada to Mexico, which covers most of the Great Plains, but they now only occupy about 2% of that habitat due to destruction of habitat. 2% of that range because of destruction of habitat. So the other species, this is a white-tailed prairie dog and a Gunnison's prairie dog. So in green and yellow there, they occupy higher elevation shrub, steppe, and high desert grassland habitats. And then the other 2 species are the Mexican prairie dog and the Utah prairie dog. So in the 1900s, the federal government funded the poisoning of millions of prairie dogs. So this is a pile of prairie dogs. And still today, many people, especially farmers and ranchers, consider prairie dogs a nuisance species due to their burrows and competition with cattle for forage. And prairie dogs are also killed for fun, and they're poisoned. And they're highly susceptible to the introduced sylvatic plague, which is carried by fleas. So my research focuses on coyote-badger associations in prairie dog colonies in South Dakota, Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico to better understand the variation in the spatial and temporal occurrence of coyote-badger associations. So we have 5 field sites. The first one is Wind Cave National Park, which is located in the southern end of the Black Hills. The Black Hills can be described as a topographic island in a sea of grass due to their rise in elevation surrounded by the flat plains. It's a mixed grass prairie environment, and they have black-tailed prairie dogs, bison, and black-footed ferrets. Next field site is Hutton Lake National Wildlife Refuge, which is owned by U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It's located south of Laramie, Wyoming. It's a sagebrush steppe Laramie High Plains environment, and they have the white-tailed prairie dog, and it's also home to the endangered Wyoming toad. The next site is the Central Plains Experimental Range, which is located in eastern Colorado, just south of Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's a shortgrass prairie, and they do long-term cattle grazing research here, and they have black-tailed prairie dogs. And I'll be referring to this site a lot throughout this talk as CEPR, the acronym up there. Our next eastern Colorado site is Heartland Ranch, which is owned by the Southern Plains Land Trust. It's near Lamar, Colorado, shortgrass prairie, and they have black-tailed prairie dogs, bison, and black-footed ferrets. And lastly, we have Valles Caldera National Preserve, which is located on the southern end of the Rocky Mountains in northern New Mexico. It's composed of grassland valleys surrounded by ponderosa pine mountains, and they have the Gunnison's prairie dog and large elk herds as well. And so these are some of the other species that live here. So cattle, prairie dogs, tarantulas, elk. It's really easy to overlook the prairie. I've driven across the Great Plains over 20 times, driving with my dog back and forth from Ohio to Colorado when I moved to Fort Collins in 2016 for college. And like many people, I was drawn to the West and mostly went on adventures in the mountains. The mountains are beautiful, but the beauty in the prairie is subtle, and you have to spend time to get to know it. So the eastern half of the state caught my attention. The shortgrass prairie in red here. And these little gray blobs are the cities. So Fort Collins, Denver, Colorado Springs, Pueblo's here. And I'll kind of talk about this area, the Front Range, a little bit more later. But I fell in love with this ecosystem. I don't exactly know why. Maybe it was the prairie dogs or the surprising abundance of wildlife. Maybe it was the wide open vistas that were completely different than the deciduous forests of Ohio that I was used to. Or maybe it was the often overlooked aspect of the prairie, especially in Colorado, where most people look west to the mountains. But it's a really special place. And grasslands are some of the most endangered ecosystems because of conversion to commercial agriculture and developments. But humans have long been part of this landscape. The Sioux, Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Apache were some of the first people to live in this part of the country. The 1862 Homestead Act marked the beginning of the fragmentation of the vast grasslands. Its goal was to develop the American West and spur economic growth. So families came out west, they got their 160 acres to live and farm on. This is a grave of Clem S. Bliss that I found at Seeper. And I looked him up and learned that he was the original homesteader in this area, and this is his deed to his 160 acres. But I can't imagine living out there back then with the intense storms, all the harsh weather, the winds, the snow. Yet people have lived there for thousands of years, and the prairie is still changing. Although this is happening in many other places, a prime example of this change and fast-paced development is the Colorado Front Range. This area spans 170 miles from Pueblo north to Fort Collins. And Colorado's state population has grown from around 2 million people in 1970 to around 6 million people today. And 85% of these people live in that brown polygon. And that population of the Front Range is expected to reach 6.3 million people by 2040. So most of the cities in the Front Range are located right on the base of the mountains in the foothills. And this is a view of Fort Collins looking east, Horsetooth Mountain. And with more and more people moving to this area of Colorado and that property near the mountains becoming more scarce and more expensive, people are beginning to creep east into the prairie for more affordable housing, fragmenting and converting grass into houses and businesses. Is that my computer telling me it's gonna die? Yeah. Hold on. Okay, so now I want to take you to one of my first field sites, the rock pile site, Seeper, and it's located right on the edge of the Front Range urban sprawl. And so while these issues aren't limited to the Front Range, this is one of the areas that I worked in and got to see firsthand the fragmentation issues happening in the prairie. So I mentioned in the beginning that this is the spot that I first captured the coyote-badger picture and led me to study this relationship, but this is also the place that allowed me to spend time and to get to know the prairie. So now I want to show you guys a film that I made about this rock pile. It's about 18 minutes long, so I hope you like it. This is the first official showing, I guess.
This is a story of connection to a place. I want you to think of a place you love. It could be a favorite park or a place you love to walk your dog. It could even be a special vacation spot filled with memories with your loved ones. For 3 different families, this special place is a pile of rocks in the shortgrass prairie on top of a hill, surrounded by a prairie dog colony in northeast Colorado.
That's the video. Thank you. So now that you have a sense of the landscape, the main characters in terms of the animals and the interactions with people, I will now go into what we have learned about the coyote-badger relationship. So as a reminder of what we know scientifically, the scientific literature is limited to natural history observations and studies that focus on one location. So the 2 main studies are Minta et al., which I mentioned earlier, and Thornton et al. From 2018. So Thornton captured incidental photos of coyote-badger associations while conducting a larger study on carnivores in Washington. And during their study, they captured 5 observations of associations, and they concluded that more research is needed to improve our understanding of relationship, and that's what we're trying to do with our study. So our hypothesis states that carnivores manage trade-offs between costs and benefits of associations with other predators through variation in time and space. We tested this hypothesis by investigating the spatial and temporal environmental conditions that influence when coyotes and badgers are together. So we have 4 predictions. Spatially, we predict that coyotes and badgers will associate more closely in prairie dog colonies, far away from human disturbance. And then temporally, we predict that coyotes and badgers will associate more in the fall and the winter and avoid each other in the spring and the summer when they're raising their young to avoid that potential risk of the other species potentially killing their offspring. And lastly, we predict that coyotes and badgers will associate at dawn and dusk and at night, which would make sense because typically these species are active at those times of day individually. So trail cameras are the tools we use to collect this data. This is the trail camera. They're like this big, they fit in your hand. You just put them out there, and when things walk by, it takes a picture. And so I got really good at building these exposures around the cameras, most of the cameras, because of donkeys and cows and elk rubbing on it and messing with the cameras. So at each of our 5 field sites, we set up a camera grid to capture photos of coyotes and badgers separately and together. So when creating these grids, we started with this center point here, and that's a point where a coyote and badger had been observed before. And from that point, we buffered out 10 square kilometers, which is a reasonable representation of the home range size of a coyote based on the literature from the areas of our field sites. And then we were able to get these 10 grid cells that are each 1 square kilometer big. Within each of those cells, we placed a camera, and I would place them at different on different landscape features that I thought had a high probability of detecting wildlife. And this grid allowed us to systematically sample the landscape and have cameras both in prairie dog colonies and outside of prairie dog colonies, so we could figure out where coyotes and badgers were together. So these are just a few examples of our cameras. This is at Heartland Ranch, looking at this lone juniper tree. This is also Heartland Ranch. This is along a stream bed. This is Unison Spring. There's a spring under all those tumbleweeds. And then this is at Seeper along a cow game trail along a fence. And so I'd go out every 2 to 3 months and check all these cameras, swap batteries and SD cards, and then just look through like a billion photos and tag them based on the species in the image. So I'm going to walk you through 2 of our camera grid setups, the Eastern Colorado ones. And for now, I'll use a descriptive and visual way of explaining our preliminary spatial results, but there will be a more quantitative look at this down the road. So this is Heartland Ranch. This is a dirt county road. There's some stream beds that run through the grid. And then this is the prairie dog colony in this area. These are our 10 camera locations. And so those pink dots are cameras that captured a coyote-badger association, and the orange dots have not. And you can see that we place cameras within the prairie dog colony and outside of the prairie dog colony. So at Heartland Ranch, we only captured coyotes and badgers together within the prairie dog colony, which supports our prediction 1 of coyote badgers associating in prairie dog colonies. Our prediction 2 was about proximity to human disturbance, and all of our sites are pretty remote. So our main form of disturbance are roads. And so far, we're not really seeing these dirt roads affecting the animals, but we're going to continue to look into different forms of human disturbance at our sites. And these are just a few of the examples of the different features that I put cameras on the landscape. So this is Unison Spring, Central Spring, that's the lone tree, and then there's a few kangaroo rat colonies as well. So this is the camera grid at Seeper, so same features, dirt county road, stream bed, and 2 prairie dog colonies in this area. These are our camera placements. And so again, those pink dots are where we've seen a coyote and badger together. And at Seeper, we did capture them within the prairie dog colony, but we also captured them on the edge and between the 2 colonies. So Seeper's results don't support our prediction 1 of coyotes and badgers only being detected in prairie dog colonies, but all of our detections were within half-mile of a prairie dog colony or between the two. And then prediction 2, again, is proximity to human disturbance. The roads are the main form of disturbance here. And then here are some of the features. So this is SEPR headquarters. This is an abandoned building. These cameras are located along game trails. And we got our prairie dog colony. So to give you a sense of what the cameras captured, this video is from Heartland Ranch, the central spring. The spring is down in there. So those were some of our spatial predictions. So now I'll go over our preliminary results for our 2 temporal predictions. So this plot shows the temporal activity of coyotes, badgers, and association. So time is on the bottom, midnight to midnight. These different panels represent the different times of day. So the blue ones are the nighttime hours, and these are the daytime hours. And on the y-axis is animal activity. So that's detections of animals on the cameras at different times of day. So this gray line is the activity patterns of coyotes and badgers together. And so notice that they're pretty much just active during the day, which likely corresponds to the diurnal nature of prairie dogs, which is the prey that they hunt together. This orange line is individual coyote activity. Green line is individual badger activity. So interestingly, coyote-badger association differs from both coyote and badger activity when they're on their own. And these preliminary results do not support our prediction that coyotes and badgers are active together during dawn and dusk. But these results are especially interesting for badgers because, as you can see on this green line, they're not really active during daytime hours when they're by themselves, but they are active when they're with a coyote, suggesting that maybe there is a benefit to badgers in this relationship, which has been hard to determine in other studies. So this bar chart shows coyote-badger associations by month. So we have the months down here. The different colors are the different seasons. And on the y-axis, we have number of detections. So our highest number of detections were in October and November in the fall. Each month we got about 17 or 18 detections, and our lowest detections were in the summer. So descriptively, these preliminary results largely support prediction 3 of detecting more associations in the fall and winter and less in the spring and summer when each are raising their young. So another goal of my project was to better understand the geographical extent of where this relationship occurs. I couldn't be in all of the places that this relationship happens, so I created this citizen science observation form to get help from other people that have seen coyotes and badgers together. So this flyer has been posted at a few of my field sites. I shared it on social media and highlighted it in articles that were written about my work. And then I kind of also scoured the internet and found any posts of coyotes and badgers, looked at all the comments, and then I would message everybody who's seen one and then ask them to fill out the form. So we have about 70 responses so far. And with this data, I created a map of coyote badger observations. So these gray dots are locations from the literature dating back to 1884 and other natural history observations from the 1900s. And then these 2 gray dots are some viral videos that went viral of the relationship more recently. All these white dots are observations from the citizen science observation form. And then the stars are my field sites, which we chose because they have a more recent coyote badger observation. And our field sites are those sites with the camera grid set up. So this map shows that this relationship happens in many different places across Western North America. They're kind of tying everything together. I grew up in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, a suburb of Cleveland. And when I was 1, my parents bought an old dairy farm about an hour away in western Pennsylvania, which we call the farm. And they bought the land to restore it back to a more natural state, and they put a conservation easement on it to protect it from developments. So we spent almost every weekend at the farm. I'd plant trees, we'd go fishing, I'd catch newts, I put grasshoppers in boxes. And we've had the property now for over 25 years, and it's been really cool to see the change over time. The wetlands now have so many different diverse plant species. Ducks overwinter in the ponds. We have fishers and mink and beaver families. And my sister has documented over 150 species of birds. And it's my dog's favorite place and one of mine as well. And these experiences created a deep appreciation in the outdoors in me. So my parents discussed the conservation of the farm with my sister and me, so we understood the value of what they were choosing to do with this land. Conserving the land helps protect the entire ecosystem. And after those 3 families moved into those 10-acre lots, right over here, a couple years later, in November 2023, this land around here, 130 acres, came up for sale for more developments. And when that happened, I knew there was a possible solution to conserve it. So this is the Rockpile Hill right here. And I set up a DSLR camera trap to get these images. And this camera is located right on the border of Seeper and then that private land that was for sale. And the 130 acres is the center of a 500-acre prairie dog colony. All those animals that visit the Rockpile also use this land. There's been long-term grazing research on competition between cattle and prairie dogs that's been happening here for over 30 years. Pronghorn used this property as a movement corridor, and there's also a stream bed moving through the property. And most importantly, if more people move to this area, we begin to lose that connectivity and refuge that Seeper and Pawnee provides for wildlife while their home is changing so much. So for over a year, I emailed dozens of people at Land Trust. I talked to friends. I contacted NPR, and they ended up doing a short piece on shortgrass prairie developments. And I just talked to anybody that I could to point me in the right direction to find somebody to buy this land. And I used my knowledge of the wildlife in this area, my photographs, my videos, and my research as a leverage point to get people to talk to me. And after many ups and downs during this process, and with help from Kimber, who was in that video, we were able to find a conservation buyer for this land, and the seller accepted the offer at the beginning of this year. And I just got an email update the other day that they're getting really close to closing the deal, and the land will become part of Seeper. And this is a video that Randy captured right on the edge of the property last year, and it actually was on my birthday, which was really exciting. And he captured this right when we were getting really close to selling this land. And I hadn't captured a video of a coyote-badger on this property in 4 years. So it was kind of a full circle moment. So over the years, I've learned about the prairie ecosystem. I became attached to the plants and the animals that call it home after spending so much time getting to know them. And learning about an issue that could drastically change this land and these animals sparked the feeling of needing to try to do something about it. So relying on and building connections in this community and succeeding exemplifies the hope I had for my project when I started this 3 years ago. And it's been a really meaningful accomplishment and full circle achievement in my life. And not only because I work to conserve this land, that's special to me, but also because it's an example of how conservation can work. If I can be successful at protecting this little piece of land, then others can be successful to try to protect places that they care about. And then as a whole, we can conserve important areas in different parts of the world. And I hope storytelling can inspire people to do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. And if anyone has questions, come to her defense tomorrow. And ask her the defense. Okay, I'm fine. Yeah, but yeah, thank you so much.